smaller videos. We are going to use an example to learn ABAQUS. In this example, we will be trying to model steel beam to column subassembly with bolts and everything, and we were going to apply loads on this subassembly and visualize the results. So there is a hierarchy with respect to how we define things in ABAQUS, which is, I guess, also very similar if you are dealing with structure analysis or finite element analysis in any type of software. So there is some kind of hierarchy. So this is basically, we go through a number of modules in ABAQUS. At first, there is the parts module. We are going to see this through the interface in the next video right away. So there is the parts module. This is where you define the geometry. There is the property module where you define the materials and the cross sections. There is the assembly module where you define pretty much where you add your parts that you defined earlier. You assemble them together, like you position them in relation to each other. So this is when you have like multiple parts. And then there is the step module. This is where you define the type of analysis you are conducting. Are you doing dynamic analysis? Are you doing static analysis or buckling analysis or thermal analysis and so on? And what are the parameters of this analysis? And then there's the interaction module. So this is, again, to define things like interactions between different parts, how different parts interact with each other. You define like some constraints, like rigid bodies, tight constraints, and so on. And then finally, before you submit the model, you have to do the meshing module. So this is where you define the mesh type, the mesh element type, and the size of the meshing, and the way your mesh looks. And then the actual job module. This is where you define your job, run it, and check the analysis steps while it's running to make sure that everything is correct, that you don't have any problems in the model. And finally, after you conclude your job, of course, this is the visualization module. So this is where you visualize the output, look at displacement, strains, stress contours, plot some figures, or create some videos or take some pictures and so on. So this is the example that we are going to go through. So this is a very basic example, but it will help us go through several features of ABAQUS. So here we have like a column with a fixed base that's 1.5 meters long. And this column has some kind of constant axial load at the top. And there is a cantilever beam, like 0.5 meter I-shaped beam coming like this, with some displacement that we are going to apply monotonically at the end of this beam. And the beam is welded to an end plate, and the end plate is bolted to the column flange. So this is your typical end plate steel beam to column connection. These are the geometric parameters that we are going to consider for our problem. So this is the column cross-section, this is the beam cross-section, this is the end plate cross-section, and this is the bolt dimensions. For the column, this is what I'm showing over here. So the column, just to cover different options. Again, in ABAQUS, we are going to model the column using solid elements. Well, everything we are going to model as solid elements pretty much, excluding the beam. So just to learn how to do this, we are going to model the beam using shell elements. We're going to see the difference here when we are modeling this in ABAQUS. So basically, when you model a solid part, you sketch the solid or the section outline, and then you extrude it in the 3D space. When you are modeling a shell part, you just model, you sketch the section center line, so just lines, and then you are going to assign to those lines some kind of thickness. This is the material that we are going to consider. Again, a simple bilinear material with a hardening branch, and these are the parameters of this material. So this is a typical steel material like S355, similar to the one used in Europe mostly. So with that, with the problem being have been described right now, so now we are going to go through ABAQUS and go through the definition, or how do we define our problem, starting with the parts module or the definition of geometry. So see you in the next video.